What's the weirdest thing you have ever walked in on? My son trying to look at his butthole with a webcam. Walked into a classroom and found out that a 13-year-old had my staff photo as his desktop picture. When my kids were very young, 4 and 3 years old, I would bathe them together. One day I left the room for a minute and on my way back I could hear cackling laughter coming from the bathroom. I sneak up to the door and see the 4-year-old on all fours, pointing his butt at the 3-year-old, who was behind him with his index finger extended as if he was going to poke his brother right in the butthole. The 4-year-old said, "Go on. Touch it." And as the 3-year-old moved his finger closer, the 4-year-old farted. They both cackled like mad. They didn't bathe together after that. Edit. Bath to bathe. I work in a hotel, and a guest asked for a coffee maker to be brought up as we didn't have them in every room. I knocked on the door a couple of times, as we're supposed to do, and didn't hear a response, so I cracked the door open a bit to see a stark naked man with one of those leather looking dog masks. I just froze for what felt like 8 minutes and closed the door. I just left the coffee maker outside the room. Writing that last part reminded me of this, so I guess my reply is a bit of a 2-for-1 special. I walked into the employee bathroom, which do lock, so if the handle turns I assume it's free and clear, once, and walked in on a coworker completely naked, sitting on the toilet with all their clothes strewn about the bathroom floor. He and I haven't made eye contact in about a month and a half. I have 8 siblings, so I've seen far too many things I wish I'd never seen. The first one that comes to mind is the time I went into the kitchen and my little brother was on all fours, wearing nothing but a pink belt around his midsection and a pair of my mother's shoes, face down in the cat's food dish, eating its food. 2 intoxicated homeless folks, male and female, ducking underneath a tree on the college campus I work security at. It probably could have been narrated by David Attenborough for how raw and wild it was. Probably my dad blow drying his pubes in the mirror. My mom absolutely lost it cracking up, and I can never get the image out of my brain no matter how hard I try. My mom walked in on my friend and I playing with each other's bobs. Not in a sexual way. We were laying on our sides and noticed our bobs got all squished. So we stuck a hand in between each other's and made them clap. Mom walked in, saw us, and said, "Okay then." I tried to explain and she put her hand up and said, "I don't even want to know." Then she shut the door and walked out. When I was a kid we had a family reunion in Oklahoma for a few days. One night, I got tired of laying awake in my sleeping bag and went to find my cousins. They were crowded around a dead snake. As one of the older girls was mid-dissection, there was blood everywhere. Considering they had just recently killed the snake and the muscles were still twitching, she told me she had done this a million times and was practicing for when she became a vet. I just went back inside. This was way back when my siblings and I still lived with our parents. I once walked in on my sister who had just gotten out of the shower. Everything was chill until the dildo she had just been using fell out of her vag. She later told me she didn't have enough time to hide it. The only thing I could think to say was "I'm scarred for life," and I ran out. Edit. For all of you sickos in the comments, I'm female too. We shared a room. Yes. She was wearing a towel. Oh boy. Do I have a good one. My mom and I had a huge joint party for our 15th and 50th birthdays with tons of our friends over at our apartment's clubhouse. I left the main scene to take some of my pals up to my room to show them my pet guinea pig, Squeakers. I opened the front door to my apartment with my friends in tow, and opened it without knocking because hey, it was my ducking house. To my surprise, when I walked in, the living room was full of buckers nude old ladies. Now, I knew that my mom had joked about getting her friends together to take calendar girls pictures for her 50th. I did not know that this was the appointed time and place for said photoshoot. But there they were. My mom and her best friends, some of whom were moms of friends, one of whom was my former teacher, in their birthday suits carrying around big fake flowers and feather boas and cupcakes and sheet taking pictures of each other. Not a bra nor panty in sight. I stood there dumbstruck for a second. When one of the ladies waved at us and called out, "Oh hi there girls. Come on in." I made a weird panicked noise, slammed the door, and sat on my welcome mat paralyzed with a hysterical uncontrollable laughing fit for like 5 minutes. It's not that I have a problem with various people's naked moms in my living room, but it was a hell of a surprise. My friends thought it was hilarious for a while and then shut up about it. But all of those ladies apologized to me for that incident 4 years like. Let it die gals. I don't need to be actively reminded of that moment every time we meet. Younger brother had a chapped butthole and my mom was powdering it for him. He was not a baby. Walked in on a girl's father standing idly in front of the refrigerator in nothing but a pair of aged white briefs. I was 16 and not very socially experienced, particularly regarding dads in underwear. So I panicked and held up my hand to shield my own view and said something like, "Hey you hoyetch," and walked back into the garage. Her parents made me go home and I never went back to her house again. One night me and my roommate watched Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny and we specifically laughed at how funny the big dig push-ups were. A few days later I walk into the dorm and his pants are down and he's flat on his belly with his arms reaching forward Superman style. He gets startled and nervously yells, "Oh hey what's up?" and pulls up his pants. Pretty sure he was attempting big dig push-ups. At a party with a bunch of friends. Door to the living room is closed. Open door. Half of my friends in attendance are engaged in a wild orgy. Closed door. Host of the party walks by, looking really annoyed. I think he's going to put a halt to the proceedings. But he just opens the door and tosses a box of condoms into the room. And closes the door again. Before the beginning of my second year of college, my roommate transferred to another university. And housing replaced him with some random transfer. He ended up being a total pain in the ass who would play on his box in the room at 3 AM. While I was trying to sleep, while even talking into his mic. Set multiple alarms at 4 AM and not get up. etc. After a pretty intense argument at 5 AM. I spent the week couch surfing. I had several midterms that week and needed my sleep, and began looking for somewhere else to live. Fortunately, there was an empty room in another dorm and I made the arrangements to change rooms. I spent the night in my new room. And walked over to my old dorm the next morning to move out before heading home for fall break. I was nervous about my old roommate causing a scene. Especially since my mom was coming down to help me move and take me back home. Instead, I walked in on him standing over my bed, masturbating over my Arduino kit and differential equations notebook. While working in the ER, some patient got a sex toy lost up in the rectum. Instead of surgery, the ER doctor attempted to remove it. He is an experienced ER doctor, probably 30 plus years in the ER and has done everything. He'd save the patient from surgery and would be able to leave that night. The patient sedated with pretty powerful sedatives, proper full wing, and the procedure began. I'm down the hall and I hear screaming. So I briskly jog over to the room and walk in. What I see is a 70-year-old doctor past elbow deep in some man's rectum. It looks like he was a ventriloquist with a 200-pound doll performing a horror show. The man was screaming in a half stupor. He wasn't conscious, but he certainly wasn't unconscious. The doctor was yelling more propofol. Push it now. The patient ended up going to surgery to get the sex toy removed. You know that game where you flip a water bottle and try to land it on its base? I walked into the lobby at my dorm to see my friends playing that game with a large dildo. I joined in and suggested we give it googly eyes and stick it on the ceiling. College is a fun place. Had just gotten to my ex-BF's home. Was having tea with my grandma before. Opened the door. He was having a house party I didn't know about. People were wearing latex underwear, flaying each other and big digs hanging around. A couple was ducking violently on his bed. The husband of the girl who was having sex was watching. My ex-BF was drunk and crying in the bathroom. Very confusing. Edit. They were flogging each other. Not flaying. I'm not a native English speaker, OMG. Walked into a McDonald's bathroom while getting a coffee on my way to work last year. As I opened the door, this lady was just sitting on the toilet in the stall directly in front of the door, taking an absolutely violent sheet, while purposefully holding the stall door open. And she would not break eye contact until I left her line of sight. She finished up, washed her hands and left. I swear to God, this was not some foreigner that maybe doesn't understand basic customs or whatever. It was just some 35-50-year-old white lady in Canada. Maybe it was a power move, but like, if she wanted the MCD's bathroom, man, she can have it. Was at a youth Bible study in the basement at my friend's house. The adults were having a Bible study upstairs. Went upstairs for a glass of water. Heard chanting. Walked into the living room to see 4 or 5 adults miming something like pulling a spear out of a kneeling person's back, whose forehead was dripping with oil. I tried to disappear, but my buddy's mom sat me down later and explained they had anointed their depressed friend with cedar oil and prayed over him, only to learn he had spiritual weapons inside him that Satan had placed there. So they all had to pull it out. Which is when I walked in. This same Bible group used to walk around our high school in the middle of the night praying for God to awaken us all. I know this because this mom invited me to come along. Charismatic Christianity is wild. My friend sucked another one of my friend's big dick for a couple of freezies. Not even the big ones. Not really walked in on, but kind of. My wife and I found a cat on my birthday. He was junior sized, just barely older than a kitten, and pretty malnourished, so we took him home. He wasn't neutered, which is important to note. Anyway, a week or two later I was in bed, sleeping, when I woke up to him fidgeting around on the bed. I open my eyes and he's laying directly next to my face, fully erect, licking his kitty goods. Definitely something I'd rather walk in on than wake up to. I know that's common in dogs, but with cats it's a pretty jarring experience, especially when it's less than 6 inches away. I had never seen a cat's big dick, and let me tell you, they are horrifying. Not something you want in your face. He's neutered now and we haven't had any further incidents, BTW. A friend of mine was sitting with his toe in his mouth for at least 10 minutes. I guess he didn't hear me coming into his room. I just walked away. When I was 11 or 12 I walked in on my older brother masturbating. His back was turned, so luckily all I saw was his ass. As I walked in on him I saw his mattress falling back into place, so being the curious child I was, I went to see what was under his mattress on a later day when he wasn't home. I was hoping for porn, cause growing up in the 90s in a religious household meant it was super hard to come by. But no. What I found was much worse. I found about 4 dozen little zip top snack bags full of cum. Edit. Thanks for the gold, you sick bastard. I'm glad my brother's shame is worth something on Reddit. I was at a weird church where my cousin was rehearsing for a play and I wanted to pee, so I walked into the bathroom and this chubby, messy girl came out of the bathroom with her unzipped pants while eating a piece of chicken. I was like 10 yo and she really scared me. Walking in the woods when I was a kid and got to the playground where I was going to wait for a friend to play. Walked up to see a guy who was happily tied to the tire swing laughing and saying I am the prisoner to nobody specific. I have him a wide berth to see who I guess was his friend sliding down the slide head first and leaving a trail of what I guess was sheet behind him. I walked to my friend's house and watched Ultraman without saying a word about what I saw. I walked in on my brother watching a chair ducking a microwave on TV. Turns out he was watching Scary Movie 5. Which really is just as disturbing. Homeless dude walked outside an IHOP and just took a sheet on their doorstep. A close friend of mine whacking it in my room. Watching porn on my PC. Turned the corner by my father's room just in time to see him rip a page out of his Wickerbook thing and eat it while masturbating. It's been 4 years and I still can't forget that. I just wanna know why. My nephew completely naked on the restroom floor screaming shit while on his iPad. No. He wasn't a toddler. Not exactly walked in on. But woken up to my cousin and his GF at the time having very silent sex in the same room as me. Just rolled over to face the other side of the room and said duck it. Went back to sleep. When I was 6 I needed help with HW and walked into my dad eating my mom's as I was like what the duck and somehow just remembered it while reading this question. I used to have this roommate whose live-in girlfriend was a real weird chick. Regularly walked around the apartment after showering with a towel on her head and around her waist. But not her chest. So. Yeah. Anyway. She was a DEFCON1 weeb. And had a rather sizable collection of anime and manga stuff. Like. Tons of it. That. And Pocky. One evening. I came home early after getting sick at work and walked in on this girl and my roommate watching a hentai with some chick getting gangbanged by monsters and diddling each other. Then proceeded to vomit again. They stopped watching their cartoon porn in the living room after that though. So that was nice. I walked in on my brother butt ass naked. On his hands and knees. With our dog licking peanut butter off his asshole. A girl posing topless with a ball like the earth while being photographed in the middle of a hiking trail in an urban national park. It was unexpected and very strange to see.